Well, hi again, folks. Welcome into UnAnchored Boston. And that UnAnchored has a certain appeal to this show because of our guests. First of all, let me tell you that we're brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? We're in New Hampshire, of course. And the great George Gray, the big wheel, we call him, the big wheel George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. All right. Speaking of UnAnchored, it's Anchors Away week here. It's the Army-Navy game. And we got lots to talk about with the Patriots, lots to talk about with the Army-Navy game. And he's right there. Max Lane is already showing his Navy. Bob Lobel always handles the intros. Look at the Navy football right there. I'm a Navy guy. My dad was in the Navy, so I've always been Navy. Lobie, take it away.
I don't know who owns the overall win. I think Army does, but Max can straighten it out. It's just a matter of, logic and honesty, and everything goes forward with the academies. And I don't understand. First of all, Max Lane played close to 10 years with the New England Patriots just before Parcells. He actually caught Parcells toward the end, right?
No, I had Parcells for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yep.
And then Pete Carroll.
Then Pete Carroll for 3 and Belichick for 1.
Belichick. Okay. So
Yep.
we know the Navy, Army. What's a kid from Missouri? And I've never heard of the town you came from. I've heard of a lot of small towns in Missouri. Ashland, it's right near Columbia. Been a lot of times across Missouri, going from St. Louis to Kansas City and all that stuff. What's a kid from Missouri end up going to the Naval Academy?
Well, probably back whenever I was coming out of the Naval Academy and you asked me that question, I wouldn't have been as honest as I would be now. But growing up out in the Midwest, first off, my dad was in the military. My dad was served in the Navy as an enlisted man in the Korean War. And back then, the way the landscape of like recruiting and high school sports and everything, the academies could recruit earlier than all the other civilian schools. So they were allowed to reach out to high schools and actually, like during my junior year, they sent out like 3x5 cards to every high school coach in the country and asking, what juniors on your high school team would you think could play Division I football and would consider going to a service academy. And my high school coach sent back my name. So Navy sent out, I think it was their defensive backs coach in March of my junior year. And he came out and visited with me and said, hey, we're going to be looking at you. We don't know if we want you yet, but if you have any interest at all in going to Annapolis, back then, everything was all hard copy. He handed me a big packet of paperwork and applications and everything like that, and said, get to work on this if you want to go, because you got to get your stuff in. You had to go through the process of, getting senators and congressmen and interviews with them and everything. And so that was kind of what got the ball rolling. My dad obviously was like, okay, I want him to go there. And it was kind of like, great education. I didn't have any I didn't have any realistic aspirations of playing professional football because I grew up in a town of, there's 850 people out in the middle of Missouri. So, I was looking at, okay, good education, a guaranteed job when you graduate. Now I can say if you graduate because I didn't graduate. But anyway, we can talk about that later. But and then kind of, growing up out in the Midwest, Notre Dame in the 80s was,
right.
That was big time football. And whenever I didn't even get a letter from them being recruited, I was kind of like, oh man, not even a letter from those guys. And I found out that Navy played them every year.
Oh, good.
And I was like, whoa, wow. Okay. So I can't play with them, but I could play against them. And that was probably a kind of like straw that broke the camel's back, probably pushed me over the edge. And yeah, and I think there's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of guys that I played football with. Now, I was talking to a buddy of mine this week. People are calling me, and I'm trying to set up like night before and post game meetups with guys, and a lot of these guys they're getting they're admirals, they're generals right now. I mean, it's crazy what the guys that I went to school with, what they have accomplished, and but a lot of those guys' stories of why they went through the academy started out like mine.
That's amazing, Max.
They won football, and we could play Notre Dame, and now they're fighting for our freedom and doing great things for our country.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So did you ever run into Steve Belichick? You had to, right? You must have run into his dad.
Yeah, no, actually, like back when I was at Navy, he was helping. Like he was kind of semi-retired. He would help like teach kids how to block punts, break down film with the coaches. He was scouting for Cleveland at the time when Bill was there, and he's actually got me my first workout for the NFL when I left school and set it up. So I loved. I mean, I always call him Old Man Belichick, but in an endearing way. And I loved him. Like and then like after that year, like he would come up. I remember in '96 during that Super Bowl year that we had, he would come up every week because we got on a winning streak. And Parcells, if he was up there and we won the game, he would look over at Mr. Belichick and he would say, "All right, you got to come back up this week." And it would be like until we lost, he was coming. So I would see him at practice and everything like that. Like he was a great guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Parcells was an incredibly superstitious guy.
Oh, absolutely.
You go in his office and all the elephants all statues of elephants all had the trunks going up. Yep. I've never seen that before. He must have 10 statues of. He has a doorstop. He has on bookends. They're all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever got him one, but I mean, unless I wanted to get out of trouble for something. But you knew what to get him if you wanted to get him something.
Let's stay with Army Navy for a little bit here. We'll get into Belichick and the current state of the Patriots in a little bit. Does this week, like every game you play is important, but is there anything like the Army Navy game at all? Tell me what this week is like for a player.
I mean, there's so much hype going on down there now. Just it's a fun week down there. There's pep rallies. There's all kinds of like, just the students doing stupid stuff like drinking bottles of Tabasco sauce at lunch.
Not college kids. No way.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that. That like, okay, we're gonna beat Army this week. We got to do this, and like all these crazy, stunts like that. Now, I will tell you that. Now, my experience with it back when I was at Navy, probably one of my favorite stories ever. It was my sophomore year, and and there's like when you're at the academy, there's West Point students that are like exchange students, and they're at Annapolis, and they are Naval Academy students at West Point that are exchange students, and then this weekend at the game they'll do like a prisoner exchange at halftime during the game, so they can go sit with their their people. But so there's a lot of traditions that go on with it. Now, when my sophomore year, we were 0-10 going into the game, and Army was probably not much better. They were probably like 3-7 or something like that. But there was a group of Navy midshipmen that in the middle of the night went up to West Point and stole the Army mules off the campus, and they had a trailer and they had a truck and a trailer, and they went up in the middle of the night. They got on base, somehow reconned their way onto West Point and stole the Army mules, and throughout the night drove back to Annapolis being chased by police and made it back to Annapolis in time for our pep rally and our send-off on Friday. And we had our captains were sitting on top of the Army mules at our send-off before we got on the buses to head up to Philadelphia.
Tremendous.
And they never, and it was, and then they stashed them. They had to stash them at the Naval Academy has a farm. They had to stash them at the farm for a couple hours to kind of lay low before they brought them to the pep rally. And, that was one of the most impressive things I think I've ever heard.
I agree. I think that's just awesome. Getting to Armies is a hike anyway. You can't get up and down them Kings Mountain or whatever it is. Did you guys win the game? That's the most important question I have.
We did. That's the only one we won that I was there. We won 24-3 that year. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Max. So that year you sang last. Can you sing part of Navy Blue and Gold on this show for us?
Oh man. Jeez. Sailormen in battle. Okay, I don't remember. Yeah. Since fighting days of old, have proved a sailor's right to wear the navy blue and gold. Well, that's the melody.
Let's hum it to the last verse, then you can sing the Navy Blue and Gold.
How do you know this, Lynch? To wear the navy blue and gold.
Hey, outstanding,
Lynchy, that's good. How do you know that?
Yeah,
I watch it. I watch it every year.
What's the Harvard? Did you know the Harvard one?
No, 10,000 Men of Harvard won victory today. That's all I know on that song.
Yep.
But that's a big deal to sing last, right? That's
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Cool.
Every year. It's there's other games that mean that mean a lot. The Air Force game means a lot, obviously, but there's just nothing like there's nothing like this one, and all the stuff that goes with it. And each school is so focused on beating the other one, it's ridiculous. Like everything, like I remember when I was a plebe, you have to like run in the halls. Like you have to run in the middle of the hallways as a plebe. You have to like they call it chopping, where you like kind of like high knees through the hallways. And when you turn corners, you have to square your corners. So like if I'm running down the hallway and I've got my books, I've got my backpack, and I have to, and I get to where my room is, I can't just like slide over and do like a lazy curve into the room. I have to do like middle of the hallway, square my corner, and when you square your corners, you got to shout either "Go Navy, sir" or "Beat Army, sir." And then that's and the reason for that is so the upperclassmen, when they're in their rooms, if they hear a plebe out in the hallway doing "Beat Army, sir," "Go Navy, sir," they know they can come out there and start shitting on them. So, they're like, okay, well, we got one. Well, let's go out and get this guy. Like it was. But yeah, it's a crazy place down there.
There was some great, remember the Lonesome Men, Carpenter. Remember Army had that offense, the Lonesome Men. They'd stick them out there. Joe Bellino, Heisman Trophy winner from Massachusetts.
Well, he's a Navy guy.
Just going back to some of the names. Roger Staubach, Navy guy. Just going back to some of Pete Dawson, an Army guy. Just going back to some of those great names that played.
I mean, I got to meet I've had the pleasure of meeting both Mr. Staubach and Mr. Bellino, and I'll never forget meeting. Well, I call him Joe. Meeting Joe Bellino, because when I was at school down there, obviously those two guys are legends. Joe Bellino won the Heisman Trophy in 1960, and but there's a story that circulated about him. And so, like in college, you like grade on the curve. So like if you get like, just to kind of help out, if it's some test is like ridiculously hard, they'll like set the curve at somewhere. And if you get, it'll kind of adjust the grades. Well, at Navy, whenever Joe was there, they had the Bellino curve. So as long as you got a better grade than Joe, you were going to pass the class. And so the first time that I met him, because he's a Massachusetts guy.
Winchester, where I live, right here.
Winchester. He's okay. That's right. And I met him at one of those NFL alumni golf tournaments. And I hadn't met him, and I didn't meet him until like I was done playing for New England. And I remember meeting him, and I was so nervous to meet Joe. And the first time I met him, it was just like, wow, this guy is straight out of the locker room. He was like I felt like I was a teammate with him instantly. And, the age difference didn't matter. The years, I mean, we were 30 years apart at school. It didn't matter. And then, after talking to him for about 5 minutes, I felt comfortable enough to ask him about the Bellino curve. And he loved it. He loved the story. He goes, oh, yeah, that was probably right. Yep.
He wasn't just a great guy all the way around. You didn't have to go to Navy or the Naval Academy to have him be nice to you, because he was just that kind of a guy.
Absolutely. He's just a salt of the earth kind of guy. Yeah.
Like you guys weren't far apart. You're a fun-loving guy. You might have come from a small town in Missouri, but you kind of like to have your time at fun too. I gotta believe. I mean, you and Bledsoe were like arm in arm when you guys were here in New England.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, Logie. I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going. I have a memory of, let's see, I think it would probably be on Friday night, somewhere around November 12th or 13th, back in 1997, of seeing you on Sports Final lambasting us the night out. I mean, granted, we probably deserved it.
Lambasting, that's a strong word. I don't think I ever lambasted it.
It was lambasting, but it was that was probably like, I mean, I love you now.
Just explain what happened, and then everybody can decide if it was lambasting or not.
Mosh pit.
Yeah. Well, obviously that was the stage diving incident. Yes,
that is at the Paradise. I know exactly where it was.
That was the Paradise. I mean,
Paradise was a hot place in those days. And I know Pearl Jam was
Everclear. It was Everclear.
Everclear. Thank you very much. Everclear.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were Portland bands. One of those West Coast.
Once you said arm in arm with Bledsoe, I knew exactly where you were going.
You know what? I wasn't prepared to go there right now. I mean, I was going to kind of, weave into it and talk about, great players that you played with here in New England, and Drew had to be one of them.
I don't beat around the bush, Lobie.
I know that, man. I just, I'm lambasting was a strong word. That's all I'm saying.
That's my favorite word of the show, lambasting.
Well,
now Channel 5 did we lambaste anybody, Max, at Channel 5?
You know what? You're always a very fair person. You're always a very fair. That's why I always end up watching that channel.
Stop it, Max. You know what? I had enough. I have enough.
I got over. I was young and I was sensitive back then, and
was it your job to protect your quarterback? That's all I'm asking. You were the offensive line guy. Weren't you supposed to protect your quarterback?
And that's what I was doing when I was there. I went in first. And I said, you can jump on me. You can jump on me. I'll be there.
Right. And what did I possibly say on that show that you would consider over the top?
Oh, it was just, I was just like watching it with like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I was in my bedroom. I was up in my bedroom at,
Man, I'm sorry.
at Norwood, Massachusetts, and I was like, wow. But we got through that.
We did.
Lamb-based. I like it. That's the word of the day. Lamb-based.
I was wondering if you, because, well, other than the publicity and all that stuff, with who was coaching then? It had to be.
It was Pete Carroll.
It was Pete Carroll. You would like saying, "Hey, he's the quarterback. He's our franchise. What are you doing there? Did you get into? Were you supposed to be babysitting him? I'm not. I'm just trying to go. This is a more serious aspect to it. I'm not trying to poke fun now, but I wondered how real that was and how much of it did they throw at you because you have.
I mean, we were just a group of guys going out and having fun, and Everclear was Drew's favorite band, and he asked us earlier that week if we wanted to go out, and he had he had tickets to it and a kind of a private section to sit in for the show, and then at some point during the show, it was like, hey, do you guys want to go up on stage? And it just went. It just kind of.
I know how these things can go. Right? You have control. Yeah. I know we're not all immune. We've all been there, done that.
I know.
But it's just
the media people. We don't ever get to hear the dirt on them. But that's the whole thing.
Oh, stick around after the show, Max. I got a whole bunch of stuff to tell you about Lobie. Let me ask you this:
I can't imagine the dirt on Jack Williams. I can just imagine.
Did you how much time did you spend on a ship at any point during your
so let's see, while I was in school, we had to do a between your freshman and sophomore year, you spent 6 weeks on a summer cruise. And so I was stationed on a ship out of Little Creek, Virginia, that it was an amphibious, an LST. So it was a tank landing ship. So it's kind of like an amphibious landing ship. And it came up to Boston for 4th of July. And so that was my first time up in Boston. And so I was on that for 6 weeks. In between your sophomore and junior year, you get to experience all the possible service selections that you could make coming out of Navy. You did a week as a Marine in Quantico. You did a week as a submariner in Kings Bay, Georgia, and actually got to spend a night on a submarine off of the coast of Cape Canaveral. We went out of there, and that was probably one of the funnest times because I knew I was getting off the next day. But we got to spend, I got to you got to kind of be like the CO of the thing. In the middle of the night, it was my turn for duty, and I got to actually call right full rudder, all ahead full to do a man overboard type of a drill with the sub surfaced. So that was a lot of fun. And then in the morning, we all got to go swimming off of the sub out in the middle of the ocean.
Wow. And
they set up, they had divers kind of providing a perimeter. And then they had up on the tower of the sub, they had snipers with M16s for shark watch.
Oh, nice.
And we swam, we had a ball and the waves would come up and you would try to surf the wave and run right back up onto the sub. And then you would wait for the wave to recede and you would jump off like it's a high dive. It was an unbelievable experience.
Wow.
Yeah. I have to ask you this. Mike's going to ask you this really important question after I do a commercial. But before I get into the commercial, this is really the most important question of the show. We do it to every guest that's on the show. So this is not.
You won't be lamb-based, I tell you, Max. We will not lamb-based on the show.
You just shut up. Okay? So here's of the coaches, of Parcells, Pete Carroll, Belichick for a year, who was three different styles totally. How would you compare those three guys?
Is this the most important question?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, come on, Max. Give us more credit than that.
I don't know.
This is one of the more interesting questions, but not.
I mean, obviously, Parcells and Pete Carroll were two different, styles. Pete coming from California and all that, more of a player's coach, all that type of stuff. I thought Parcells and Belichick obviously were very similar. I just thought Parcells had more personality. He had a little bit more sense of humor. And I took to Parcells' sense of humor. And the other thing that I really liked about Coach Parcells was that he knew people so well, and he knew that, and kind of like the thing that I like, not that Lynch, knows I coach up at Phillips Exeter now, O-line and D-line. And, just the little bit of coaching that I've done, the one thing I took from Parcells is that you can't treat everybody the same. Everybody's different. And he knew who he could get on harder than the other. And, I was one of those guys that I think he knew that, I don't know if he knew I was sensitive, but he knew that he couldn't totally, razz me as much as he could somebody like, like a Steve Diassi or somebody like that he kind of had history with in New York. And so he would use those New York guys as kind of examples of, he would get all over and like, man, he's going to yell at them, we better get our butt in line. But with me, he was a little bit more, there were definitely times where he got on me. Rookie year training camp, we were doing a one-on-one pass pro. And that was kind of like one of the premier drills of the practice. And he would always come down and I was going up against Willie or Chris Slade or somebody like that. And I went off sides like 2 or 3 times in a row. I was so, trying to get out there. And he goes, Parcells goes, Jesus Christ, Lane, what did it take to get into the Naval Academy? 98.6 body temperature? And I was like, oh, man. I was like, I'm cut. I'm out of here. I called my parents that night. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be around here much. But, and then, he just had a way of like communicating what he wanted to communicate in a way that it was special. That's the way I love Coach Parcells.
I remember he told Matt Barr when we said to Diassi about Matt Barr was sick or threw up. He said, tell him to go throw up in his own time. He's kicking for me today. Tell him to go throw up in his own time.
Oh, so much of that stuff. I mean, we had, I think in my rookie year, we had a guy named Mario Johnson. He was a free agent defensive lineman. I knew of him because he was from Missouri and he had played for Mizzou. And so I was kind of like, wow, this guy, we've got Mario Johnson. But Mario Johnson was really out of shape when he showed up for training camp. And we ran our conditioning test. And I think after the first 300-yard shuttle we had, he didn't make that one. Second one, barely made. Third one, he passed out, was having convulsions, was having seizures. And the ambulance had to come out and get him. And Parcells just came over and said, hey, whenever he comes through, just get his playbook and get him back to the airport. And it was like, but that's the way it was back then. You could do that stuff. And he cut both third rounders my rookie year in the first or second week. I mean, yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. Okay, let me do this order of business, and the question will be coming up. I didn't even get you the Belichick yet, but I will. We're far from over there. This is about camping. This is land lovers. This is not about going out on the ocean and swimming with guys shooting sharks over your shoulder.
Getting lambasted by M16.
Right, lamb-basted, right. This is no, that's lamb, not land. Lamb-based. Be some kind of farmer. Missouri farm. I got it. Get ready for 2024 with a new RV. Cold Springs RV has the latest in pop-ups or travel trailers. If you want to go to Austria and conquer Austria like Napoleon did, if you want to go to Italy and conquer Italy like Napoleon did, then do it in a camper. You could be a star in Napoleon's army. Fifth wheelers, motorhomes, it doesn't matter. If you need winter storage, they have the space here and now. I'm thinking about winter storage. I'm getting real close to it. Many more shows like this, and I'll be headed there tomorrow. If you need winterizing, visit their Pro RV Service Center. When you need an RV or service to get on to Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, just west of Goffstown, north of Haverhill, tell them Lobel, Lynchy, and, Max Lane would be a great name to drop too. Learn more.
I love RVs. I love RVs.
You do?
Yeah, I love them.
I believe, I usually you strike me as that kind of guy. That guy.
Oh yeah, no, my so before I went to am I ruining your commercial here? I got an RV.
No, you're only enhancing it. Believe me.
Okay. I went. So before I went to the academy, I went Naval Academy as a prep school in Newport, Rhode Island, and I went there. It's called Naval Academy Prep School, NAPS, and I went there for a year. We had a football team, went 10-0. It was great. But the first couple of weekends that we had Liberty, guys in my company, we rented RVs and had like Winnebago weekends is what we called them. And we would.
What a great idea!
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I'm sure these RVs that you're talking about would be great for that.
Oh no, there's no doubt about it. It's right up in New Hampshire.
Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. You say where? Yeah. Ware, New Hampshire, of course.
Winnebago weekends. Whoa.
Winnebago weekends. All right, so
here's a question. This is good.
This will play right into the question of the day. We ask every guest the same question. Remember, the late, great John Madden didn't like to fly, so he had a Madden Cruiser, that bus, remember?
Yep.
So Cold Springs RV is going to make a Lobel Cruiser out of everything, by RV, whatever they have. And we're going to give the Lobel Cruiser to a guest. Each guest.
Yes, I'll take one. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You can't keep it. You got to give it back. But you can drive it cross country.
Good, Max. You're the first guy to ever jump on it like that. That was
You're the most aggressive guy we've ever had. Now, the key is you have to bring somebody with you to ride shotgun cross country. Somebody you want to talk to, somebody historical, past, present, somebody alive, somebody deceased. But who do you think would be an interesting person to ride shotgun cross country? We'll fly you back, but you're going to ride 3,000 miles with this guy or woman.
Ride shotgun cross country. Who's driving?
You.
Okay. We can't hire a driver?
No.
Well, I
don't talk when I drive.
Huh?
All right, we'll look at it. Lobel and I will split the driving duties. But you gotta have somebody you want to ride shotgun. Somebody you want to have a conversation.
You guys are already on it, right?
Well,
so I can't say,
I'll tell you what. We'll have autopilot. All right. Let your guest drive it. It's just you and another person. Lobel and I are out.
If there's some privacy you want, it's okay with us.
Oh. That opens up the.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. But Admiral Nimitz would be a good pick. You want to take Admiral Nimitz? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm like so just to piggyback on this question. One of the questions I've been asked before, like similar type question, is like, what era would you have wanted to grow up in? And I was always like a Western guy, so I think I would like to have like Wyatt Earp.
Love it.
So Tombstone is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
I know you probably can't do anything with that. I know you're looking for something more sports.
No, that's great.
But,
Milbury picked Winston Churchill. I took Muhammad Ali. Wyatt Earp is a great choice.
That's a
Yeah,
great
because
show.
I love that movie. I love I've been to Tombstone. So that's the one thing. Like if we take this Cold Springs RV, we're not just doing I-70 and I-80 all the way across. We got to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to go down to Arizona and go through Tombstone.
Okay.
So
Beautiful.
Good one.
so
Good.
when do we do this?
Well,
As soon as it's built. It's in the production stages right now. Top secret.
okay, now I can get back to Belichick, right?
Okay, here we go.
Just tell me what you think. I mean, it's like it's kind of sad. I mean, no, you got him at different levels. You got him as his father. You got him as a coach. You got him as a career. You got him here. You followed him. You got him through a lot of iterations in his life, and now we're seeing a really kind of a sad iteration at the moment.
Well, that's a tough situation going down there altogether. I know he hates what's going on. I come up at it from more of a player's perspective. I feel, when you hear all the people talking about like, oh, let's get the first round draft pick or get the first draft pick and all that stuff. That just makes me sick. When I think about guys like David Andrews, who, how can you can't play this game and be thinking about. And it's just it's a really tough situation now. I was on some rough teams. I think 95 we were 5-11 or 6-10. Belichick's first year we were 5-11. Never to the point where you would start thinking about tanking to get a draft pick. It was never. So it's just a tough, and I think last week I heard Matt Slater kind of saying, I understand why people think that way. I can understand it. And, for them, so they're hearing it. And, as much as Coach Belichick tries to insulate that locker room, it's impossible to these days. But, I just think that it's not good things going on down there. But I know I can't see him, he's doing everything he can to try to, to win the game. And that's the one thing I know about him. That's, so I don't know what else I could say about that. I've known him, I knew his dad first. And so, and my feelings about him. And, I had him in 96. He was an assistant here in 96 and then as a head coach in 2000. Now he did cut me. So I always say, when people ask me who do I like better, Parcells or Belichick, I'm like, well, Parcells drafted me and Belichick cut me. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, that's fair. This isn't I'm not looking for a hanging or a hatchet job. I just looking for an overall career perspective. Sometimes the job becomes too difficult for one man to handle if you're trying to do everything. If you're trying to control everything. And maybe that's in his personality. He's a control guy. Maybe there's all kinds of possibilities. Then the relationship with his quarterbacks and with his owner, and on it goes. It's just after a while you do kind of wear thin on. They kind of tune you out, as you kind of get tuned out.
Yeah. I just think it's so ironic that I remember, I think he took the quote from Parcells, because when Parcells was coaching, he always made the quote like, "Oh, I'm not Marv Levy, I'm not going to be here." And then I think Belichick kind of adopted that at some point, and then here he is, and it's almost like a little foreshadowing. Maybe he should have, said what, done what he kind of not become Marv Levy. You know what I mean? It's but I don't know.
Let me ask this, Max. Jim Burke, our producer, was asked this question. I thought it was a pretty good one. He said, should Robbie Kraft part ways with Belichick at the end of this year? Then next summer they've got the big retirement night for Tom Brady. Would Belichick come back for that and be part of it? If it ends on an acrimonious note here.
I don't know. I guess, guys, like the part, and we're getting into this and everything. And the way I think of it is like, I played football for 7 years. I guess it's hard for me to make assumptions on what Coach Belichick would do and wouldn't do, because I think I'm so much inferior of his football experience, what he's accomplished, and everything like that. I was just a player with him, and for me to, start being too critical about like what he would do and what he wouldn't do, it just is. It's. I don't feel comfortable.
All right, fair enough. He goes to Canton, Ohio, gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. How many of his former players show up?
For Coach Belichick?
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys would come back.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, at least from that era of, definitely Giants guys for sure. I would. I mean, I think as you get older, you kind of understand decisions that were made. Believe me, I was not a happy person after he cut me. Like I didn't want the Patriots. Like, it was a hard pill for me to swallow. I had a broken leg. I got cut. They won 3 out of the next 4 Super Bowls. I was on the inside. I was, rooting against them. I mean, I liked all my former teammates, but I was bitter for probably 4 or 5 years, and living in this region and having to, put on a happy face, for those years, and I was not a happy, and it's tough, and and I'm not saying I think I probably still have some, haven't really felt like I've had the closure that I would like to have with Coach Belichick because of it. But, as you get older, you kind of realize that's life, and that's just the way things are. And you kind of look at what he did, for you and for the team and for the organization. And you kind of, those feelings kind of calm down a little bit. They don't ever go away. But I would definitely come, if he had his Hall of Fame thing here, I would definitely come back for it and support him in it and everything. As I wish they would have it for Parcells.
That's a whole nother story. Why don't they have it for Parcells? We've talked about that many times on the show, but Max, I gotta give you a lot of credit in the way that you're honestly grappling with this dilemma. I mean, It's obviously been a dilemma for almost 20 years that you've had to grapple with it, and I get it. I totally understand that. It makes so much sense that you feel that way.
Yeah.
It makes even more sense that you have the courage to face it and realize what's going on inside, and that's the truth. That is your truth.
Yeah.
And
the funny thing is, Lobel, so 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I was like, I would be going to those games, and I put the smile on the outside, and my stomach is turning on the inside. But it took me, and then like I started doing. Back then, I was doing some of the analyst stuff for NECN.
Right.
And I think it was like 2005, whenever the the Patriots were playing Indianapolis in the AFC Championship game in Indianapolis. And I was doing NEC and stuff with Chris Collins, and I would leave my house at halftime and go down to Needham. And I remember the Patriots were up 21-3. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am actually happy they are winning. It was the first time that I was happy that they were winning. Because I think I was going to be able to go to the Super Bowl if they won. So I was going to take the free trip. Can't complain about that. And by the time I left halftime, and when I drove down to Needham, and I remember calling my dad on the phone and actually telling him, because he lived it with me, your parents are along with you. I remember calling my dad and saying, Dad, I'm actually happy that they're winning. Like, this is something else. And then by the time I got to Needham, they blew it.
Oh, yeah.
They blew it. And Indianapolis won, and they played Chicago in the Super Bowl. And I was like, man, finally I'm ready for them to win. And they blew it.
Yeah. It's like Lucy and the football. Always peanuts.
Yep. Now, at one point, I thought I was like the Super Bowl jinx. And I'll explain that. I don't know if you mind me rambling here like this?
No.
You ramble on.
Okay.
No.
All right. So obviously in 96 we lost, right?
Right.
96 we lost. 01, 03, 04 they won. I was not at the game. I didn't go to the games, even to act like I was happy about it. 2007, I went to the game in Phoenix. They lost. 2012, I took my son to the game in Indianapolis, again to the Giants. They lost.
Yeah, you were the jinx. There's no question about it.
2014, Seattle in Phoenix.
Whoa.
I go out to go, but I don't go to the game. They win. 2016 season, Houston, Atlanta. I go to the game. It's halftime, and I'm thinking, wow, I really am the jinx of this whole thing. And then thankfully they turned it around and 28, whatever it was. But man, I was thinking, this is ridiculous. But yeah.
Yeah, Parcells would not let you near any. If Parcells was the head coach at that time, you wouldn't want to be allowed to even be in the same state.
Oh no,
He
he was. He had some great ones. We would have like on our Saturdays, on our Saturdays, if when we were on that win streak, and he would have if we would have in the week before we didn't have the walkthrough and we won the game, he would be like, he would ask Todd Rucci. He goes, Rucci, did we do a walkthrough last week? And Rucci goes, no, coach. He goes, all right, we're not doing it this week either. Get out of here. Or after the game, sometime. And then there was kind of a stretch where he would, we would even come in on Monday because we had done it the previous week. And he was like, Rucci, were we here last Monday? No, coach, we weren't. It was all right. See you Wednesday. It was like, but it was, so he just made it fun. The one thing I'll say about Parcells that the way I always explain it is that you were on pins and needles when you came into the building, like pins and needles, like walking on eggshells, but you couldn't wait to get there. That's the way it was. Like you were scared to death that he was going to call you out, but you just couldn't wait to get there just to hear what he was going to say.
You even talk like him. I've noticed that even in our conversation here today, you sound a lot like him, mannerism-wise. I don't think that's by accident either. I think you admired him so much. I
got more stories for you.
Well, you can't go wrong telling Parcells stories. I'm telling you.
I got another one. This one's kind of funny. So, 90, this is 95, I think, 96, maybe 95. We were playing the Carolina Panthers, and Parcells would walk around, like it was during practice, and he would walk around during warm-ups, and I always stretched near right next to Sean Jefferson. And I loved Sean Jefferson. He was one of my favorite teammates. Parcells would just walk around, and particularly that week, he came and walked over there, and he goes, Lane, he goes, you're going up against, I was going up against this guy named Mike Fox. And Mike Fox, the big old country defensive lineman and he'd had him in New York, but he was at Carolina. He goes, hey, you're going up against Foxy this week. He goes, I had him in New York, And I'm like, oh, yes, coach. And then he goes, yeah, he's a lot like you. Not a lot of talent, but he works really hard. I'm like, thanks. Thank you.
Great.
Well, let me ask, what was when you guys realized what was going down after that Green Bay lost in the Super Bowl, that he wasn't riding on the team bus or the team plane, which is not unusual, but you knew that the end had arrived. Were you guys confused, bummed out, angry? What was the feeling among the team?
I mean, no, I wasn't. We had already had our exit meeting before we went down to New Orleans.
Okay.
And kind of had all that stuff, kind of the things to kind of straighten out before we went down there. And I think he did it because he knew a lot of guys on the team were from the South. Whether it was they were from Texas, some were from Louisiana, some were from Florida. And so he kind of made it to where, once that game was over, whether you won or you lost, the season was done. And a lot of guys took off from there. Like they didn't, there's a lot of guys that didn't ride back in the plane as well. And so I really didn't look at that as being such a big deal that he didn't ride back in the plane with us, because there was a handful, probably easily 10 or 15 other guys that didn't ride back in the plane as well. So yeah, that's.
But when it happened that he was not coming back to the Patriots, was there?
That was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I was, because, I had kind of felt like I just got established as, as a right tackle. Of course, I just had the Lobel, I'm surprised you haven't even wanted to talk about Reggie White yet. But
we still have some time. I don't know. Now that you brought it up, why don't you just go right into it?
Well, I mean, after that game, I was kind of wanting redemption at some point, and I knew we were playing Green Bay the following season. Yeah. And, whenever he left, it kind of I was really disappointed. And then when Pete Carroll came, he moved me to guard, and they brought in Zephros Moss to play right tackle because they thought that Zephros had pretty good success against Reggie playing because he had come from Detroit. And so whenever I got moved to guard, I didn't have the chance to play against Reggie again that following year, which I was disappointed at. But
why do you think Reggie should have been thankful you didn't play against him again?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I mean,
go ahead. Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I mean, rest in peace to him as well.
I get it.
But no, Reggie, holy moly. You want to talk about a guy, that Super Bowl. So Reggie didn't wear anything on his arms. A lot of guys wear tape on their fingers or on their wrists or elbow sleeves. Reggie didn't wear anything on his hands, on his arms, nothing. And so I go line up. I get down there, and it's the first play. And I played against him in, the first game of the preseason that year. We played against each other, but it was just one series, and it was preseason. So It wasn't that memorable. But I go line up, and it's the first play, and your eyes go down to the turf, or go down to down to the turf, and it happens like that your eyes do it, but it goes right from the fingers up to the wrist, up the forearm, up the bicep, all the way up into the shoulder pad, and like, if I could just see it, like his arm just kept on getting bigger, like all the way up into, like, it was like, holy moly, because he does not wear anything on it, so you can see every little vein and everything, and it's just like, wow, this guy's eating something different for sure. But he was just, he was a strong. I mean, there was one play in that first half where the first half was all right because we had Ben Coates, and Ben would like chip him if he was on my side, and I think I did a pretty good job with him in the first half. One play, though, he got me on a bull rush, and my feet left the ground, and they didn't touch the ground until I was almost in Bledsoe's lap. Okay, now wait a minute, Lynchy, why are you doing? Okay, you can't be doing that to me.
What do you? Lynch is doing this to you, not me.
I know, Lynchy's.
You can land base me,
Mr. Lynch.
I just found it.
Yeah,
he's all right. No, you're.
I'm in good shape there.
You're in very good shape. Yeah, you're in
video.
solid.
Let me see that. Hold it up again.
I hope it's a still photo. If it's, I don't want the video. Yeah, I'm in good
photo.
Shape.
Wide base.
Right before he threw that hump move on me. That made me want this. Yep.
I don't know what's more impressive, Reggie White's arms or Lynchy fired in that video.
Yeah, how about that? Huh? He's on here, Max. I tried to get him in the computer, but you are.
Oh, okay. That was right after. See that little kid?
Yeah.
He was a freshman kicker.
Yeah.
The kid in the middle there with his eyes down, Ryan Buccineri. That was my senior year. And he missed an 18-yard field goal. If we would have made that field goal, we would have gone to the White House because we beat Air Force that year.
Oh.
And then we lost 16-14 to Army my senior year because of that field goal. We had a guy who's a great friend of mine now, teammate Dave Shaw, who actually lives in Raynham, Massachusetts right now. And his nickname is Gibber. I don't know why. But anyway, after that game, there were like reporters asking about that field goal and how he felt about losing that game. And this was 1993. And Dave goes, "I'd like to kill that kicker." And so then Dave got in trouble for that. And he had to go to like sensitivity training and all kinds of he got in trouble at school and had to go through all kinds of like harassment training and everything to make sure that there was nothing serious about his comments.
Where's Booch today? What did he do in the Naval Academy after he graduated?
I have no idea. I didn't, he was dead to me after that, Lobel. No.
Good job, buddy.
How many ticket requests do you have for this week for the Army Navy game?
A few here and there, but nothing like. I mean, through our Navy Football Brotherhood, we are a guy named Frank Shank, who was a senior when I was a freshman. He formed this group and formalized it probably about 10 or 15 years ago. And in order for us to pull together to get season tickets for, if we wanted to go back to Annapolis for games. And then by doing that, it gave us some buying power to be able to have access to buy Army Navy tickets at face value. Because before that, we would have to just go to like the ticket brokers because the game's always sold out. But now we have the option you know, you have to do it like back in May, probably May or June, but, you know, to buy either 2 or 4 tickets for the game. And so I do it every year, even if I'm not sure if I'm going to go, because there's always guys looking for tickets. And then, you know, we've got a Facebook page that, you know, a couple weeks leading up to the game, you know, guys are like, you know, hey, I've got 2 tickets extra, I can't go, you know, all that kind of type of stuff going on. So usually that's taken care of. It's kind of the people that I know that are New England people that are not affiliated with Navy that kind of want to go to the game this year, and they kind of reach out asking me about it. But everything I've heard this year, that it's a pretty hard ticket to get.
Yeah, harder than Taylor Swift.
That's what Jonathan says anyway.
That's right. Hey, let me get this spot in right here. Hey, if you're looking for a new vehicle, go where Lobel and Lynch go. Go see our good friend, the big wheel, George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know that George and his family will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that Lobel and I trust greatly, and you can trust as well. Believe me, go see the big wheel himself, George Gray, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. I know he's a big fan of the Patriots, of the Army-Navy game, and we know the big wheel is, if he's not at the game, he's going to be watching the game for sure. Max, anything else you want to?
I don't want to know if you get free wine from Bledsoe.
Oh, you know what? No, I don't. I haven't ever gotten any. No.
Story.
I mean, I'm not a big wine guy, so it really doesn't hurt my feelings when it comes to that. But
yeah, but all the protection you gave him, all the protection you gave him as a right tackle, first guy in the mosh pit. All right, laying.
I don't know if he looks at that as being protection.
Hey, Drew, I'm going in to see if it's safe.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been wanting to be on with you guys because, I mean, I love you guys. You guys, what you have done for the Boston area and everything over the years, like you guys are like the true, like I'll never forget you guys.
Thanks, Max.
You're very kind, Max. Thank you very much. We loved having you on. You really gave us a great show. Thank you.
Yeah, you want to come back sometime?
Well, I'll be back next week. I don't.
For part 2.
Let's do that. We got to do that show on the RV. We got to do that show on the RV.
That's right. You're going to hold us to that, and I don't blame you. You should.
Yep.
Good job.
All right, Max.
Great
Thanks a lot. Max Lane has been our guest, and make sure you follow us on unanchoredboston.com.
Go Navy.